Hey guys, this is Rudi for Best Your Investor coming at you live from West Palm Beach, Florida. It is Thursday. It is January the 7th. And what I thought to do was respond to some of the inquiries that people have sent my way, asking me how I feel about the incoming administration. Obviously, now it's a foregone conclusion that Joe Biden is going to be inaugurated as President of the United States on January the 20th. This impacts us in a variety of different ways, not only as investors, but in terms of our everyday life. So I thought I would take a few minutes and share my macro thesis as to what this really means to us as investors and as people, including our peers who are currently living in the United States. Of course, the old adage is if the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, because the economy is so huge that it literally impacts everything that happens everywhere else in the world. So stick with me for a few minutes and I'll walk you through kind of what my thoughts are as it relates to the incoming administration.
This is what you came for. This is what you came for. I'm over. This is what you came for. I'm over. This is me. She said, I'm ready. So come and get me. I'm over here. I'm over here.
So initially, I thought I would call this greasing the U.S. political engine, but then I kind of had a rethink because, I really try and go out of my way not to offend everyone, only some people. So I called it oiling the U.S. political engine instead, because a lot of people who follow my channel are obviously oil investors, and we want to know what the impact will be on our investments as we go forward. During the election campaign, Biden had said, and so did Kamala Harris, that they would ban fossil fuels, they would ban fracking, then they wouldn't ban fracking, and so on and so on. So this was kind of like a never-ending story. They're not going to do any of those. So that's my first take on the thesis in terms of where we are today. They say these things in order to get elected, but the reality of it is the United States needs the 2 or 3 million jobs that the so-called fossil fuel industry provides on a direct basis. And in addition to that, obviously, the United States is one of the largest consumers of energy. So none of those things are going to happen because renewables are such a small little smidge of energy generation that you can almost ignore all that stuff. That's my first sort of macro take in terms of what the old guys have been telling us. So firstly, just a simple New Year's resolution. I thought I would give you something really easy to do, because if I say go to the gym every day, you might say, I tried that last year or the year before and the year before that, and it didn't work because I only went for the first couple of weeks and then I stopped going. So this one is really easy. If you want to really have a simple New Year's resolution that you can execute on right away, delete your Facebook account, delete your Instagram, delete your Twitter, delete your Pinterest, delete your WhatsApp. I understand that some of these things are necessary because this is the way we communicate today. I personally use WhatsApp to communicate with some of my suppliers overseas, and that's their preferred communication methodology, so I don't really have a choice in that. But I can tell you that as of today, I've already deleted my Twitter handle. So if you used to follow me on Twitter at Rudi Best, it no longer exists. So I'm done with these guys. It's a cesspool of misinformation. It's just horrible. It's not good for your life. It's not good for your well-being. Just get rid of it. It serves no purpose. It's full of censorship. They only show you stuff they want to show you. So if you can, take the bold step and just delete all this stuff, because you don't need this so-called social media anymore. Stay on LinkedIn if you'd like. At least it's sort of semi-professional for the most part. And obviously you can stick to YouTube and view anything you'd like, including this channel that has not been censored yet. So let's look at the sort of historical highlights reel. In my lifetime, I have seen 5 Democrat presidents, 5.5, and 5 Republican presidents come and go. Once again, 5.5. I'm calling Trump a half because half of the population believes he's actually a Democrat and the other half believes he's actually a Republican. I think he's actually just a businessman who had no idea what he's stepping into when he expressed his desire to become president. And he's now served 1 term and he's going to be on his way out. And that's too bad for the people who like him, and big cheers for the people who don't like him. At the end of the day, I actually quite enjoyed the fact that he disrupted the political landscape as we know it. And in addition to that, the mere fact that he actually did some stuff that he said he was going to do was actually quite refreshing. So, as a general rule, I dislike all politicians, but I actually found Trump to be quite entertaining. The fact of the matter is, according to the media anyway, and according to the same social media I just said you should delete, the Democrats pulled off a sweep in the 2020 election, and President Joe Biden and his fellow Democrats, even although they underperformed in the US election, winning fewer Senate seats than the polls had predicted and losing seats in the House, Biden was the outlier because he won all the key swing states by a vote margin of less than 1%. Make of that whatever you wish. Those are just the facts of the matter. Whether it's real or not, I don't care. I just report and you decide. What does this mean for us as investors? The reason why I started off by saying I went in my lifetime, I've seen 5 Democrat presidents and 5 Republican presidents come and go, is because in the greater scheme of things, nothing changes. The reason for that comment is because I know from past experience that it's the bureaucrats who manage the swamp and not the elected officials who come and go. So let's take a look at the upcoming 2-year power trip. And I call it a 2-year power trip because in 2 years from now, there will be midterm elections. And like Barack Obama once said after the first 2 years of his owning the administration, Senate, and the House, he didn't expect to get a shellacking. But that's what happened to the Democrats as they lost a huge number of seats and gave the House and the Senate back to the Republicans. The Democrats will control for the next 2 years the administration, which is another word for the presidency, the Senate with its 100 members, and the House with its 435 members, where they have a majority in both the upper and lower chamber of the House of Representatives in the United States. Of course, Biden will be able to select his own cabinet secretaries. He will be further empowered by the fact that he can use the relatively weaponized 3-letter agencies to his liking, which includes the very well-known FBI, CIA, NSA, etc. And the NSA is probably tracking this recording right now. He can appoint a whole lot of new judges. The Democrats will also control the money supply, regardless of anyone's claims to the contrary and claims that the Fed is independent of the politicians. That is simply not true. But the Democrats will not control the entire political agenda because some reps either won't agree with Biden or his far left faction, or they will represent conservative leaning states and sort of keep him a little bit in check anyway, as has happened to the president before him and the one before him and the one before him, and so on and so on. What does all this mean? Ka-ching, because when the Fed controls the money supply and the Fed controls the public purse, spending happens, and I'm not suggesting for a minute that Republicans don't spend. Politicians spend like there is absolutely no tomorrow, and they are highly adept at kicking the can down the road for our kids and grandkids to pick up the tab. But anyway, the Democrats will spend, and that is ka-ching. The Dem bonus round number 1. Firstly, Biden will get his cabinet appointees, and he will probably get all his nominees easily confirmed. Why? Because they have a majority in both houses, the Congress representatives and the Senate. A couple of people you can take a look out for. Neera Tanden used to be the budget director nominee, and she's the proposed budget director nominee. She previously worked for the Obama administration as a senior advisor for health reform at the Department of Health and Human Services, and more recently ran the Center for American Progress, which is quite a nice word for people who want us to be progressive. She also co-authored a recent op-ed with a clear message: the deficit and debt shouldn't even factor into our coronavirus recession response. Do whatever you have to do. The other guy we can look out for is Merrick Garland as Attorney General, which means he will run the Justice Department. Justice in inverted commas, because I'm not sure that justice is a proper name for the department, and I won't go all the way down into the depths of describing what oxymorons mean. Merrick Garland used to be a former chief judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia. So I'll just assume that all chief justices of the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. are above board and stand-up guys. He was previously considered a risk in terms of his nomination as Attorney General because it would have been difficult to confirm a replacement for him on the appellate court with the Republican Senate majority, which no longer exists. So what about these cabinet appointees? I've only mentioned two of them, and of course this is speculation, but kaching, because Neera Tanden, the budget director nominee, has already said the deficit and debt shouldn't factor into the coronavirus recession response. Then bonus round number two, more stimulus money. Biden said as recently as January the 4th that if the Dems take the Senate, those $2,000 checks will go out the door. They previously, Congress approved checks for $600, so the Dems might have to settle for the $1,400 difference, but we don't know about that yet. We'll see how we go. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually send out $2,000 checks just to buy themselves some goodwill. You can argue that this is not necessarily the best use of stimulus money. I'm not going to go there, but it will definitely add to the annual deficit. And for sure, it will help the economy in the short run. Ka-ching! Then bonus round number three, more aid for cities and states. Senate Republicans shot this down in the last stimulus bill because Democrats wouldn't agree to their demand for a coronavirus liability waiver for businesses. Democrats won't have to negotiate that now and will probably approve at least $160 billion in state and local aid. We expect the next stimulus package likely around March, maybe even prior to that. And the new stimulus spending in 2021 could total $1 trillion. Of course, we have no problem with spending whatsoever, and we have no problem printing more money. Ka-ching. Dem bonus round number four, higher taxes. Businesses and investors worry most about Biden's plan to raise taxes, but his plans are unlikely to become a reality soon. He wants to raise the corporate tax. He also wants to raise income taxes on workers earning more than $400,000 and raise capital gains tax for people earning more than $1 million. To be fair, other than the corporate tax rate change, which you'll have a tough time getting through, the other 2 points that I just raised do not apply to the majority of people in the United States because very few people earn more than $400,000 per year, and very few people earn more than $1 million per year to get penalized by an increased capital tax gain. He does have some challenges because raising taxes during economic downturns can harm a recovery, and arguably we are still in an economic downturn. In addition to that, there are at least 3 to 4 conservative Dems in the Senate who are unlikely to vote for major tax hikes. Goldman Sachs, usually whatever Goldman Sachs predicts, I want to take the other side of the trade, but in this instance, they predict Dems will only pass incremental tax increases and not until late 2021. The fact of the matter is, as I said at the beginning, in the greater scheme of things, nothing will likely change of much significance. Dem bonus round number 5. The repeal of the limit on SALT, the state and local tax. So what happens in the United States is you can deduct your property mortgage expenses and interest from your personal income tax. But the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 capped the amount of deductions for state and local taxes at $10,000. So for the majority of people, that would mean that this bill is pretty much irrelevant because the majority of people pay less than $10,000 in state and local taxes per year anyway. However, the affected high-income Dem states such as New York and California were most affected, and those Democrats had sought to reverse the change ever since December of 2017 when it was implemented. The challenge, repealing the SALT deduction limit benefits wealthy taxpayers only. So on one hand, you have the Democrats saying, we want to tax the wealthy. And on the other hand, if they repeal SALT, the state and local tax deductions cap, they are benefiting the wealthy taxpayers. So it's kind of a tough one to pull this one as the proverbial rabbit out the hat. They might have to raise other taxes on the wealthy and then maybe even include a modest tax cut for middle income workers in order to cause a little distraction. Then bonus round number 6 is infrastructure spending. Biden wants a big infrastructure bill and Republicans might go along with it. Why not? There's unlimited money, and if you need more, you just print more. This would require funding, which goes back to tax increases, maybe. The House and the Senate may not be able to agree on where to get the money, but that doesn't matter because they are politicians, so ka-ching, we'll just print more. So guys, that's my take on this. Let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, as usual, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please hit the subscribe button and do so. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the election and how it might impact us as investors. So for now, that's it. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye-bye.